So as a lot of you guys may know, the new Trippie Redd album came out, but I think the music videos are way sicker than the actual music. In this video, I'm gonna break down the full Muscles music video with Trippie Redd and Lil Durk. I'm gonna go over that tracking effect they did throughout the video, how to get that black and white vintage look, and then I'm also going to be sharing some sauce on a free plugin that they use in the video. Definitely a really sick plugin, so stick around for that. Also, the Essentials Effects and Transition Pack is now available in After Effects, so if you already have that pack, you got an email with the free update for After Effects, and if you've been holding off on it because you only use After Effects, it's now available in After Effects, so go snag it. So let's get into it. In After Effects, this is kind of what I came up with. This is the sequence. We got the tracking effect. We got this really dope transition here. And then we also have like these tracking points here. I think I recreated what they had in the video pretty damn well. And I think I sauced it up a little bit more, but you guys can be the judge of that. So I'm going to go through and show you how to do all of this. So the whole aesthetic of the video is kind of like this security cam, like VHS, all grungy effect throughout the video. So to get that look on your video, and to do that, we're gonna be using the digital camcorder night shot. So you just drag that onto the footage, and you can see we have that night shot. So it does have that green tint to it. And if that's what you're going for, that's cool. I think that's also a really cool aesthetic. But if we wanted to mimic what they had in the video as close as possible, I would go to this tint effect here that I have in the preset and change this green just to white. It's gonna turn it to black and white. And you can see pretty much immediately it already has a very similar look. There is one thing that I'm going to do to sauce it up even more, but this is what it was before, now what it is after. I think it already encapsulates that effect like perfectly, but I always like saucing it up, going that extra mile. So I'm going to make an adjustment layer, drag that above everything. And I'm a sucker for this film looks preset that I have. So I just like dragging that on everything. And you can see it just transforms it a little bit more even. It has a little bit of a reddish hue to it. So if you don't want that, you can just turn off this lumetri here. Now I will say, if you do have an old camcorder or VHS camera, it is always going to look more realistic using the actual thing. So if you do have access to it, go ahead and use it. If not, presets are your friend. I want to go over this tracking effect that you can see here that I do on Trippie, and then it goes from Durk to Trippie in this clip. I like using the actual tracker. Make sure you're selected on the actual footage you want. Go to tracker, and then I use track motion. Basically, you just put this dot somewhere. There's a lot of contrast. So you can see there's a lot of white here and then black. So it's going to probably do a pretty decent job tracking throughout. Now to execute this effect, it's not always best to have the smoothest possible track, because as we know, like those old camera trackers or the face recognition on your iPhone, it sometimes does lag and kind of like glitch out a bit. So for here, we're gonna have it start on Durk, and then we're gonna have it go to Trippie halfway through, kind of like how the camera sometimes flips the focus on people. I'm just gonna analyze one frame forward at a time here, and we're gonna go about halfway, and then I'm just gonna take this tracker, and instead of putting it on Durk, I'm just gonna put it on Trippie here, and then we're gonna go through and finish the rest of it. So the easiest way to actually apply the tracking is to go down to the bottom left, right click, and create a new null object, and then I'm just gonna cut that, and then go to the edit target, and instead of the clip, you just want to find that null object. So for us, null 4, and then click OK. And then just go ahead and click apply, and then just make sure it's X and Y and click OK. So now we just need a red box or whatever color box you want to use. I'm going to use red. So to do that, I'm going to go up to this rectangle tool, and let's start it around Durk. And you can see it started off filled in, so we can go ahead and fix that. I'm going to open up the options here, and then inside of contents and inside of rectangle, I'm going to go to fill, and then just turn that opacity to 0. And then inside of stroke, I'm going to go ahead and just turn up the stroke to be a little thicker, maybe something like 8 for us. It really depends what it is for you. And then you can also go through and kind of rescale this to kind of be whatever you want. I'm just going to have the track slightly to the right. And now when we play that, it actually still doesn't do anything yet. So what we need to do is use this pick whip tool. Kind of looks like a spiral. And you just need to drag that right to where it says null 4. And now when we play that, you can see it has the tracking. We can see when it goes to Trippie, it kind of looks a little weird because it's like the same size and it doesn't look like it tracked over to him. So what I'm going to do is go to the transform options in the rectangle, keyframe right before it swaps over, and then go make sure you click on transform here. Otherwise it kind of like glitches out a bit. And then I'm just going to scale it to fit to Trippie a bit more. And now when we're playing that, you can see it kind of hops over to Trippie properly. And you can do a bunch of different things. For example, like you could have it just track his head or something, or like the top part of his body. It's all kind of just like however you want to play with it now. Let's go ahead and do that. I think that looks cool. And another thing to make it look a little bit more realistic, I'm going to go to toggle switches and modes down here until you see this motion blur option, and then just make sure to click that. That way, now there'll be a little bit of motion blur on the actual object itself. So kind of when it swaps over, there's a little bit of motion blur, and just like the slight movements have some blur. I'm also going to hit toggle switches and modes one more time and turn this to screen. Just going to make it look a little bit better overall. And now to sauce this rectangle up a bit, because it still looks like digital. You want it to look digital, but like not this digital. So I'm going to use the VHS High 8 preset from my Essentials pack and just drag that on to the shape layer itself. And now you're going to see it almost instantly transforms that box into looking a little bit more vintage and kind of just fits the aesthetic of the video. You can see it has like these ripples here to kind of have it look like it's glitching a little bit more. And honestly, I feel like it fits perfectly. The only thing I would add is some kind of glow. So I'm gonna add deep glow. If you just have the normal After Effects glow, it doesn't really matter. You can add any kind of glow and it'll make it look a little bit better. Turn on the radius a bit and also the exposure, but just some kind of glow. Now that we got the track on that clip, let's go ahead and apply it to this other clip here of Trippie. And I'm gonna use a different technique this time. Instead of using the tracker, I'm just gonna actually manually keyframe it. That way you guys can play around with it. I think this technique is a little bit more laggy looking, but sometimes I think it looks a little bit better actually. So again, just make a rectangle and then go to fill, turn that down to 0, and then turn the stroke up to whatever you think looks good. Again, turn it to screen, and then I'm gonna cut it here. Now this time I'm gonna go inside of the transform options inside of the rectangle instead of just transform down here. I think it personally just looks a little bit better, and I'm gonna keyframe it to kind of fit his face how I want it to. For us right there looks pretty decent. And then I'm gonna go 2 frames forward, keyframe it again with the exact same value so it doesn't change at all, and then go 1 more frame forward and then kind of change it. And I'm just gonna make sure to keyframe all those things and then do that same process. So now go 2 frames forward, keyframe it, go 1 frame forward, and then change it a bit. So I went ahead and did that throughout. So basically you keyframe, go 2 frames forward, apply the same keyframes, then go 1 frame forward and kind of tweak it to the next spot. That way it's a little bit more glitchy and it's almost like refreshing every 3 frames. We go ahead and play that. You can see it almost has a little bit more of a laggy look. And honestly, I think I personally like this way a little bit better. It does take a bit more work, but sometimes stuff like that is worth it. So again, I'm just gonna apply that VHS preset and then also some kind of glow. And now when we play that, it has a really cool kind of like glitchy look. So now I'm going to show you guys how to do these tracking points here, where it kind of tracks the overall motion of the scene and leave them in rendered like this. I think it looks really cool. It plays along with the kind of camera tracking like VHS, like security cam stuff. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate our video layer and then go to the tracker, but this time click track camera instead of track motion. It'll take a second to analyze and then solve. And then once it's rendered out, if you go frame by frame, you can see we have these tracking points throughout. Now to get them to stay once you actually render them, just click render track points, and then now they're going to stay. You can also change the track point size, which I did in the example. And then I didn't want the track points everywhere how they are now. I thought it was a bit obnoxious. So I just kind of want them on the subjects or around them. So to do that, let's go ahead and pre-compose the layer with the track points, move all attributes in a new comp and adjust the length, and then go to the pen tool up here and then just kind of select where you want the points to be. And now you can go through and keyframe the mask. For us, for the sake of tutorial, I'm just going to leave it like how it is, and you can see now the track points are just in the area where we masked. Now it's time to share the sauce on that free plugin that I was talking about, and that is called Amino Diffusion. I'll have it linked in the description. That way you guys can download it. It's actually 100% free. It's super fire plugin. I haven't really used any of the other ones, but it comes with colorizer, halftone, kaleidoscope, snake, sphere, squares, test, whatever. But to apply the transition that I made and that they did in the video, I'm going to pre-compose the shape layer of the box here and then also the layer of the video, and just go ahead and pre-compose it. Look okay. And then I'm going to go like 3 frames before the transition and then just apply Amino Diffusion to that clip that we split. Now, when you first apply it, it might look a little bit weird. I'm going to go ahead and change the direction from right. I just want it to go down, so it kind of like droops down. And then to kind of understand the plugin, the color count right here basically shows how many different colors are actually going to affect it. So by default, it's set to 2, so it's only going to be affected by the black and the white. But you can maybe go ahead, since we have black, white, and red, you could change it to 3. And then you can see if we start bringing that red, the red will play. I actually don't want to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and keyframe the width of the black and then the width of the white. And let's start it off a little bit more like all put together. You can also play around with the air across and air aside. I think that looks good here. And then let's go like 2 frames forward and then just keyframe it to kind of like almost melt down. And I did lie. I actually do want to include that red. That way the box is still there. Now you can see it kind of melts down like that. And to make it have a little bit more of a glitchy effect, I'm just going to change the scale and scale in a bit and maybe move it up like this. That way it kind of just like glitches up, and maybe we'll put them to the side a little bit more. That way it has a little bit more of a glitchy transition. Maybe I'll make it a little bit less intense since we zoomed in a bit, and then I'll just easy ease them. And then lastly, a few things just to spice it up a bit. I'm going to add a flash transition from the transition pack. Now that it's available in After Effects, I'm going to be using this all the time. I use it all the time in Premiere Pro, but honestly, I personally use After Effects more often, so I kind of made this pack available just for me. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new adjustment layer because that was the flash in, and then put the flash out. And basically wherever you drag the keyframes is where keyframes will start. So I'm just going to drag flash out to start here and then cut it. And now there's just a little bit of a flash. I'm actually just going to turn up the intensity a little bit. And then also I'm just going to toss on a quick vertical hit to kind of go along with that melting there. So it kind of just like matches the vibe of that. And then I'm going to add some add grain onto an adjustment layer above everything. Turn that from preview to final output and turn off the color noise. We just want it to be monochromatic. And then I'm going to turn down the size to like 0.5-ish. So then we have this nice grain over everything. And then I'm also going to add some RSMB, and I'm going to make sure to have that below the grain. That way it kind of interacts with the grain in an interesting and unique way. And you'll see that in a second. I'm just going to turn up the blur mount just a bit. When you have the RSMB below the grain, it doesn't have the grain really applied to the spots that are blurring. And I think it looks really cool. I like the way it looks personally. And then this is our full transition. Really, really fire the way it actually came out. I think we took what they had in the original project, put our own little sauce on it to make it a bit more unique. I'm gonna have all the directors and editors for the project of Muscles linked down below. Definitely go show them love. Super sick project. And also I'm gonna have the Essentials bundle linked down below. Like I said, if you already did own it, you got the update for free for After Effects. And if you were holding off on it because you didn't really use Premiere Pro, kind of like me, honestly, as much, definitely go snag it. It's a huge time saver. Like the title says, it has a bunch of essential effects and then also some transitions just to save you time. I use it all the time in Premiere Pro, and now I'm going to use it like crazy in After Effects. It's definitely a snag. If you did make it all the way to the end, be sure to drop a like on the video, follow me on Instagram, and also join the Discord. It's linked down below. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys in this one. Peace!